In this lesson, I'm going to be teaching you my 4-step practice system that has literally helped thousands of students inside of Jazz Piano School achieve results way faster and given them confidence and security that they can wake up every day knowing exactly what to practice and how to get better at jazz piano. Hi, my name is Brendan Lowe, creator and founder of Jazz Piano School. Usually I launch right in, but I have a couple of things to tell you. In the 300th episode, podcast episode, that's coming up in 10 episodes, I'm going to be asking students to send me snippets, videos, and audio files of their playing so I can highlight you. I really want to uplift all the students, all the supporters, all the fans out there. So if you're interested in being showcased in that, please send me a snippet, video clip, or audio clip of yourself, your name, and the tune that you're playing to support@jazzpianoschool.com. We will edit down all the videos and all the audio to highlight all the students, all the fans, and all the followers in that amazing 300th podcast episode. So you have 10 episodes left to get that submission into me, and I will add you into that. The next thing I want to say is that if you're interested in learning more about the practice system, the Jazz Piano School learning system that's found inside of Jazz Piano School, you can go to jazzpianoschool.com/system, where I teach you an amazing masterclass about this entire system, show you the amazing concepts and categories that I pull from and work on, and of course go into more in-depth knowledge and education regarding what you're about to learn here today. Of course, go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all the amazing free education that's found there. And if you're interested, we do have a membership available if you want to take those next steps with us. With that being said, let's dive in.
All right, so bear with me because this lesson is going to be kind of two parts. The first part is going to be about picking the category or concept, as you're going to hear me explain, that you want to focus on. And then the second layer, the second part, is going to be about how to take that concept and actually practice it in an everyday routine using my 4-step process, okay? So in jazz, the number one thing that really holds students back is practicing and picking some sort of thing to work on, because a lot of us have no idea what to work on, right? So we can practice voicings. We can practice rootless voicings, right? You might be doing this. You can practice rootless voicings in 2-5-1s. You can practice upper structure triads, right? So you could play half steps, whole steps, whatever. You can practice improv. Whatever that may look like for you, right? You might not have an idea of what that looks like. So you may sit down at the piano and say, okay, I'm going to practice improv, right? What is the process of practicing improv look like for you? Does it look like this? You just sit down, you try some licks out, right? So maybe you do that, right? But you're not really sure if you're actually making any progress or not. You might sit down at the piano, you might say, okay, I'm going to practice jazz and I'm going to play through some tunes. So maybe you play through Stella, however you know how to play solo piano, right? Maybe you say, I'm going to practice Autumn Leaves. Practice, again, I keep putting this in quotes because what is your version of practicing? Practicing is not just the process of playing through tunes. That's not actual practicing because you're not focused in on concepts. So when you sit down, you play Autumn Leaves, right? However you know how to play it, maybe you're doing this. Unless you're really focused in on a specific target, a goal that you want to accomplish to get better, you're really not practicing anything. And that's why it's so students in jazz to make progress, because there's so much information out there on the internet. You're watching this YouTube video right now. You might go to someone else's YouTube video. They might teach you a cool arpeggio lick like this. And then you're like, oh, cool, I want to practice that. But is that actually helping you reach your goal, okay? So the first part here is that I really want you to get meticulous and surgical about the area that you want to make progress in. Now, I'm going to give you a couple categories to choose from, okay? Number one, if your goal is to play solo piano, then solo piano is a skill set on its own. Now, within the solo piano skill set, you have a couple different things to choose from or focus on. When I play solo piano, I can play tunes without improvisation. So you may want to play solo piano and not improvise, because that's a whole other ballgame as well. So I might want to just be able to do this. You may just want to be able to sit down at the piano and play through tunes. That's a completely great goal. You may want to be able to improvise while playing solo piano. That's a whole nother focus topic point that you're going to need to set as a goal as well. They don't go hand in hand. You can't just practice all of it at once. Now, you also may be playing through, Stella or any other kind of ballad. You may not have great voicings or understanding of how to arrange the chords in solo piano, right? You may be playing some very simple things like all 1, 3s, and 7s, all root position in your left hand, right? So your goal may be, okay, I really want to get some new voicings happening and work on those voicings to integrate into my solo piano performance. Now, let's say you're not even interested in playing solo piano. Maybe you're playing with bands, you're playing with groups, and you want some more voicings. You want some cool drop 2s. Whatever it is. I'm really honestly just playing kind of random chords at this point just to demonstrate. But that may be your goal as well. Maybe you're playing in a band, you want to know how to comp. Right? Maybe you just want to learn how to comp. That would be your focus point. But see, the thing is that students get so hung up going on the internet, learning from teachers where they have no path. They have no goal. Because jazz piano is nebulous. You can take on so much information and it can never connect. You could learn 1,000 things and none of those things could ever connect to lead you in a straight line to actually achieve the goal that you want. That's honestly one of the top 3 issues that students have is learning random bits of information that never really connect to help them gain progress. So the very first thing to develop a practice routine and achieve and make results faster in your playing is you need to focus in on really specific concepts, okay? So pick something out of your solo piano. I know this is hard when you don't have a teacher and stuff like that. And if you're a member inside of Jazz Piano School, you can always come to me. You can ask me about these things. But when you don't have a teacher, you don't have a mentor helping you, it's difficult to do this. But do you want to learn solo piano? All right? If you do, then probably you need to learn how to arrange your hands to create some more better voicings like this. Right? Just to make it more lush, right? That's one of the number one things that I see students struggle with, okay? So that might be your focus, okay? You're looking to play more solo piano. Good. Write it down. I want to learn how to do this. Solo piano is your goal. Maybe you'll need to learn more voicings in solo piano. If solo piano is not your goal, maybe your goal is to learn voicings on the piano because you're playing in a band. You want to learn how to comp. Right? So that may be your goal. Write that down, okay? Maybe your goal is improvisation, though. Maybe you're playing in a band. You want to learn how to improvise a little bit more, right? You want to learn how to play maybe the blues. Right? You want to learn how to improvise because you're playing in the band, okay? That might be your goal. Whatever your goal is, okay, write it down because you need to find out where you are. In order to practice something and get to a higher level of playing, you need to know where you're at because where you're at in your path, in your journey, will tell you the next steps that you need to work on. Like I said, a lot of students don't practice the next steps that they need to work on. They practice miscellaneous information that's like side paths that stop them from making progress in the true thing that they want because you think it's what you need, but you're not the teacher, right? You don't know what you really need because you're not the professional. So you start to go on the internet. This is what I did, by the way, okay? I'm not kind of just throwing this stuff out there, trying to make you feel guilty. I did this too, okay? And I learned from my experiences, so now I'm trying to share them with you. So you go on the internet, you find other things that you think you need, but they're really not the step to bring you forward, okay? So let's say you need voicings. Find out where you are. Do you know your triads? Do you know all triads, right? Do you know your major, do your minor? Do you know your seventh chords? All root position seventh chords. Okay, majors, minors, dominants. Do you know your inversions, right? Can you voice lead your seventh chords through 2-5-1s? Do you know your rootless voicings? Can you create two-hand voicings with your rootless voicings? Right? Can you change or alter the extensions in your two-hand voicings with your rootless voicings? So you need to figure out where you are in your path. And if you're improvising, right, do you know your chord tones? Can you improvise with chord tones? Can you improvise with connecting motion, or what I call glue notes? Right? Do you know any bebop approaches? Right? Do you know any improvisational tools like the altered scale or the half whole scale to kind of bring your sound out a little bit, incorporating that with bebop? Right? Okay? So find out where you are in your path. And again, inside of Jazz Piano School, there's a lot of different areas to do that. Obviously, there's a lot of resources on Jazz Piano School. I highly recommend you go check out my 2023 planning information podcast and things like that. I go and break down all the different paths in these areas for you to find out where you are, but just really kind of start to understand what steps are necessary to go down the path of improv, to go down the path of voicings, to go down the path of solo piano, to go down the path of comping, okay? And make that your goal. So I'm going to give you an example now. We're going to move on to part two. Part two is once you focus on this specific thing, okay? Let's take improv, for example. Let's say you are at a point where you're improvising diatonically and it kind of sounds okay. Let's say if you're improvising in the key of C. Right? And it sounds kind of blandish, but you need some more spunk. You need some more spice to it, right? The next step here might be to work on your bebop approach notes. Now, here's my 4-step process to take a concept, work on it every single day to create a practice routine to start to achieve really fast results in your playing. Step number 1, you need to learn the concept. You need to learn the theory behind the concept, the tool. These are all just tools. It's like learning how to use a chainsaw or a nail gun or some sort of tool you want to put in your tool bag so you can use it to build houses, to build your house, your improv house, right? So the concept behind bebop approaches is you need to understand that your bebop approaches are surrounding your chord tones. Right? That's the concept there. So theoretically, you need to understand this without music, okay, without reading exercises. On the piano, you need to understand the theory behind this, right? So the first part of the 4-step practice routine is theory and understanding. It's the knowledge of the concept. It's not the ability to execute the concept yet. That's going to come next. It's just the understanding of the concept, to understand what the purpose of that tool is, what it's going to do for you, how it's going to elevate your playing, and the sound it's going to create. So by practicing this every day, what you're going to do is you're going to play through all 4 of these steps every single day. So take 10 minutes and learn this concept and work on it every day. So here's the first thing you want to do. Let's say you're working on half-step below approach. Play your half-step below approach in different keys through your 2-5-1s, or maybe just one chord. Maybe just take all your minor chords. Here's my half-step below approach, half-step below approach. I'm not playing with any time. I'm not worrying about technique. I'm simply looking at the notes and learning that this half-step below approach means I'm going to play a half-step below interval below my chord tone, and this can create tension and release, which gives me the bebop sound in my playing. So I can start my improv lines with a half-step below approach. And I can also resolve into chord tones to get into my next chord with the use of that half-step below approach. So now that I understand that, that's a great first step, because now we can start to work on it and apply it. So by practicing theory, here's what I mean. There's no time. You're just working it out on the piano. The act of practicing theory is you playing through the theoretical concept on the piano and learning it for yourself without any time. Again, it doesn't matter if your technique's good or not. That's not what this step is about. It's about learning the exercise. Then we go to a G7 chord if we're doing 2-5-1s, right? Just like this. Okay, there's millions of ways you can practice your half step below approaches. Again, inside of Jazz Piano School, all those exercises are laid out for you. But pick whatever you want. If you want to do all your minor 7 chords, you can. If you want to do all your dominant chords, you can do that. And if you're a more advanced player, you can do chord scale above, half step below. Right? You can do all sorts of things. This system works for no matter how beginner you are, in intermediate or advanced. I still use this to this day. Okay? So that's the first part. Step number 2 is actually the technical process of working on this exercise so your fingers start to get it. Your hands start to get it. No matter what theoretical tool you're working on, you're going to apply some pressure. So I would put on metronome on now, and we're actually doing the exercises. So most people start here. They skip the theoretical concept because they say, oh, okay, I know it, I got it. I'm just going to play the exercises. The exercises will help me. No. The exercises are to help your hand execute the theoretical concept. But most people don't even understand the theoretical concept to begin with. They just start playing exercises by reading the notes, and then they're handcuffed to the music, which prevents them from achieving freedom in jazz piano, which is the ability to improvise jazz music without music, right? Reading notes. So here we go. Put the metronome on, maybe 70 BPM, and very slowly, maybe just the right hand alone. Don't even add your left hand in. You're just executing the exercise. Very slowly learning it. So I'm just doing my D minor 7. I'm going to go to my G7 now. Just like this, right? So this is step number 2. I'm doing technique now of my concept that I'm working on. And now here's my C major. Right, so on and so forth. So now this part of this process is executing the exercise. If you've picked something from your voicings category, this part of the process is executing that voicing. So if you're learning your two-handed voicings with some drop 2s, maybe it's this setup here. You're going to use this setup. So you're going to flip a metronome on, practice this through your keys or through down by half steps with that metronome on to apply some pressure. So again, you're practicing the act of executing this concept that you now know. You understand what's happening. I have my 1 and 7 here. I got my rootless voicing here, and I'm lifting up the second note from the top, my third finger. Okay, because you learn that in the theory part of it, of the step. So now that you know how to execute and you're practicing some technique, the third step is going to be improv, but not in the way that you think. The improv of this tool means you're practicing the spontaneous act of utilizing the tool in different types of controlled situations. Controlled being the key word here. Just because I've worked on my half step below doesn't mean I can just flip open to a tune and start to use it. And that's where most students go wrong. It's like, okay, I practice these exercises, I'm going to go try and use them in a tune. There's a huge disparity, huge gap in that step that you're not accomplishing, which is the act of practicing spontaneity and improvisation with the use of that tool. And we want to do that in baby steps. So here's what I mean. I'm going to take one chord and I'm going to practice first without a metronome the act of just using my half step below to create some lines. Okay, so I'm improvising without time yet to just start the process of learning how to use this spontaneously. So I might try going to the third and starting a line. Cool, that sounded pretty good. I'm going to try the fifth. I'm going to try my half step below to the fifth. Cool, that sounded pretty good. Maybe I'll end with a half step below approach too. Right? So right now, you're just getting comfortable and used to the process of practicing spontaneity with the tool that you're working on. There's no pressure yet. There's no time yet. You're just working it out without a metronome. Right? Okay, and you can do this again with so many different types of exercises. You can do 2-5-1s. You can do, again, all controlled exercises. So maybe you want to practice through your 2-5-1s. Maybe you want to use a half step below approach to resolve into the next chord tone of every single chord. Maybe that's your exercise. Again, no tempo yet. No tempo just yet because we're taking baby steps, okay? If the 2-5-1 is too difficult for you, just work on one chord. Again, the more controlled environment, the better, because we're going to move to the least controlled environment, which is complete, execution of improvisation spontaneously. That's the least controlled thing, right? So now we flip a metronome on and we have it clicking away. And the goal here in a still controlled environment, when I say controlled environment, I mean I'm just using one chord. That's a very simple controlled environment. I'm not having to switch between chords. I'm not having to read notes. I'm not having to think ahead. Everything's very controlled, safe feeling, so that I can work on my half step below approach, but I have a little bit of time now. My metronome's beating, so I might click, 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 maybe 80. And I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start a line and create one every 4 beats. So, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. So I'm getting used to some time, a little bit of pressure, right? So it's a little less controlled than what I just did without the metronome, okay? Now to step this up a little bit, to make it a little bit, less controlled, I can start to do progressions now with my metronome. So I can go 2-5-1 progressions. Right? So now I'll do a 2-5-1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So now I'm still in a controlled environment, meaning a 2-5-1. I'm not reading brand new tunes yet or any tunes that I'm working on. I'm practicing. Maybe you do a different key. Maybe you up the tempo. You're taking all these variables in step number 3, which is improv, right? It's not just, I am using an improv example, but you can use this with a voicing example too. Let's say you're working on voicings, and now you want to practice the spontaneous art of using these voicings, right? Which is step number 3, improv. So it's not just improv in your right hand. It's improvisational practice with the tool that you're using, because your goal is to be able to spontaneously use that tool in any tune spontaneously, right? That's the true art of improvisation, being able to just bust it out and play it, right? So let's say you're working on your altered chord, right? I want to be able to play that spontaneously, so I need to work on it in a controlled environment. So I'm going to comp with it over like a C7 maybe, and I'll throw a metronome on and just practice some comps, rhythmic comps over one chord. 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, 3, 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3. Now that's a very controlled environment. I'm using one voicing, I'm using one chord, and the metronome's clicking away. My next goal is to make that a little bit less controlled. So I'm going to take a variable, and I'm going to pick one of the variables, and I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to change a variable. I'm going to use 2 voicings. So I'm going to go from this voicing to this voicing and comp with those 2 voicings. So I've upped one variable by just a smidge. I'm not going all the way into tunes just yet. That's too far advanced. It's way too far advanced, right? Baby steps here, okay? So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3. So now I'm getting used to moving back and forth between these 2 voicings. So what could a next step be for you? You can start to use it in 2-5-1s, right? So maybe instead of just one chord, we up a progression variable and we say, okay, now in this progression, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2. Now I'm using a rootless voicing, but I'm playing an altered chord over the dominant. So I've upped the variable a little bit. I've made my environment a little bit less controlled, but we're still in a safe environment. We know we're playing 2-5-1s that we know, and we're practicing the improvisational art of spontaneity, right? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my new tool that I'm working on, that voicing, right? And I'll come back around. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, 4, 1. So I'm getting used to the tool in using it in an improvised way, meaning I'm picking the rhythms, I'm choosing between this voicing or this voicing, but I'm still in a controlled environment. So we want to try to keep making it as less controlled as possible. So now maybe I'll do 2 different 2-5-1s. I could do this 2-5-1 to this, and then maybe I go to this, right? So you get the picture. You keep moving up these levers that help you put you in a more uncomfortable position to learn the tool. Now, after you've done that, obviously the amount of keys that you work on, if you're working on a voicing or if you're working on improv, right, it's going to determine how many tunes you can play. So this is why teachers always recommend playing in as many keys as possible, because when you open up to a tune, and let's say I open up to a tune and I want to play an F7 altered, let's say I've practiced my F7 altered, but if I see a B flat 7 chord, I won't know to do this because I haven't practiced that key, right? So it's kind of, it's withholding. It's kind of handcuffing me to play over a tune that has a B flat 7 chord in it, right? But let's say I have practiced my F7 chord going through these 3 steps. I've learned the theory, I've practiced the execution of it, and I've practiced the spontaneous art of comping with it to help myself feel comfortable about just utilizing it and integrate it in a spontaneous way, but in a controlled environment. The last step is repertoire, to integrate your tool and all the work you've done into a tune, right? Pick a tune that you have F7 chords in and start to utilize your tool, right? So now in Autumn Leaves, if I'm comping through Autumn Leaves, I can do this. And let's say you know these other chords, you'll just keep comping through this, maybe use an altered chord over the D7 if you've practiced that. But the purpose here is now we're finally at the integration stages of our tool into a tune, which is the final step. That's the very final step, right? It doesn't start first. So many students start to play tunes first. Tunes are great for certain purposes, but in order to get better at jazz, you have to get more specific. You have to get more meticulous, more granular, more surgical, and pick out concepts that you want to work on to get better at, and then bring them into the tunes. Because the tunes isn't really what helps you get better. You could be playing a tune very, very poorly over and over and over again, and just practicing that tune in a very poor way. And that's what most students do, right? The tune is just a set of changes. It's tools and theoretical concepts that actually help you get better, play the tune better. It's not the tune that helps you play better. It's these small bite-sized concepts like maybe a reharm. Let's say you want to focus on that reharm. Now you could play Autumn Leaves with that reharm, right? And then you could solo over the reharm as well. So it's not about the tune. And again, the final step is taking all the work you've done on that particular concept, using that 4-step process: theory, technique, improv, and the 4th step is repertoire, meaning you start to integrate that tool where you can and over the certain changes that you've played in specific tunes. And that way you're starting to get comfortable utilizing that tool in tunes. So when you go to play those tunes in a live setting or a performance setting, or when you sit down at the piano, those tools will start to shine automatically. They'll start to shine naturally in your playing without you having to read music, without you having to think about it, without you hesitating, without you feeling doubtful, right, or insecure, because you've worked on a systematic process to play that tool. You can now integrate them into any tune you want, and it truly achieves jazz piano freedom for the pianist, okay? I know that was a lot of information I jam-packed in 27 minutes. Wow, that went a lot longer than I thought it was. But when you use this system, it's going to really help you achieve results so much faster, like 100 times faster. It's the system that I use inside of Jazz Piano School. Pick and focus on a concept, work on a specific, very bite-sized concept, bring it through the 4-step process that I just taught you, and I promise you'll start to see amazing results so much quicker in your playing, and you'll achieve your jazz piano goal so much faster than you ever could imagine, okay? All right, that's enough for today. I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care and have a great day. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Don't forget to go to jazzpianoschool.com to check out all of our free, amazing education, all of the free podcasts, blogs. We do have a membership if you're looking to take a next step forward with us, get access to over 1,000 different jazz piano videos, playbooks, mini courses, a main course curriculum, success path, and so much more. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at support@jazzpianoschool.com. I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, happy practicing.